I had a request for a PSA reveal video. Let's take a look. Good evening, everyone. Today we have a PSA order, a vintage order. This is actually my first vintage order with PSA. So I'm pretty excited to get that back. You can see we have a Nolan Ryan 84 Fleer PSA 6 on top. This was a 20 card order. So I'm gonna go ahead and go through this. There were actually only 19 cards that got graded. So one of the cards was actually identified as evidence of trimming. I think that's what it is. Anyway, so we're going to go through 19 cards, see the grades, kind of go over why I submitted these cards. I don't typically buy vintage or get vintage graded. And so one of the things that I wanted to do is just figure out how do these cards grade? Because I really don't know. I mean, if you've looked at any cards from even the 80s, but if you go back to the 60s, obviously, there's worn corners, worn edges, maybe some surface issues, and typically, if you saw that on a modern card, you would not send that in. However, with vintage cards, I mean, a PSA 5, a PSA 7, those could still be profitable cards. So that's what we're going to take a look at today. First card. Now, let me explain the Nolan Ryan PSA 6 here. I had an 84 Fleer set, and I went through every card and identified cards that had some value as PSA 10s. And so a Nolan Ryan PSA 10 sells for about $100 to $125. I thought this card would gem. Unfortunately, it didn't. So you'll see some 84 Fleer cards in this vintage order, along with some Hank Aaron's, and I'll get into that story as well. So let's go ahead and go through it. So let's throw this aside. Obviously, a Nolan Ryan PSA 6 is worthless, so we'll go ahead and put that aside. I actually submitted 3 Nolan Ryans. So let's see what we got on Nolan Ryan number 2. PSA 8. So I would say probably almost worthless. So we went 0 for 2. One more. Let's see. Are we going to go 0 for 3? 84 Fleer Nolan Ryan. PSA 10. We got one. So I'll be honest with you, I did not see any difference between all 3 of these cards, and one got a 10, one got an 8, and one got a 6. So go figure. That's how it goes. But actually, considering what I paid, which was next to nothing for all 3 of those cards, I actually made a profit. It just took 110 to make a profit on 3 graded Nolan Ryan 84 Fleer cards. Here is the 84 Fleer Don Mattingly rookie. Thought I would take a shot at this. Let's see what we got. PSA 8. So a little disappointing. This card has been selling in a PSA 8 for about 35 bucks. These cards were in an 84 Fleer set that I had. I'm considering the cost basis at 0 just because I've had this set for about 15 years. I don't even remember what I paid for it. So it's kind of like found money. And really, I just consider the cost of grading the cost of the overall cost of the car. Decided to take a shot on a Tony Gwynn. A PSA 10 sells for 70 bucks. Let's see what we got here. We got the PSA 9. So I think a PSA 9 goes for 25. And I thought it was worth taking a shot on that Tony Gwynn because, again, there's nothing into the cost of the card. It's 18 to grade the card. And it's still a $25 card. I can still get my money back. And why not take a shot at a 10? Now, here's one that was really interesting. Kevin Mawai 94 Bowman rookie. I know Kevin Mawai has somewhat of a fan base. I've watched NFL Channel enough to know that. But I was surprised to learn that a PSA 9 just sold for $75 and a PSA 10 is roughly worth about 200 bucks. So let's see what we got. Oh, we got the 10 on this. That is awesome. I mean, this is a card that was just sitting in my 94 Bowman set raw. I could have opted to sell it raw for maybe $5 to $10 at the most. I paid 18 bucks, and now it's a $200 card. Okay, let's get into some football now. We have a 1982 Joe Montana. I got this off a buddy of mine that lives in Dallas. Let's take a look at what we got. I think I paid about $10 for the card. So let's take a look here. We got a PSA 8. And I believe the PSA 8 sells for roughly $30 to $35. I'll go ahead and put a final cost versus market value of the cards to kind of go over a profit loss statement at the end. I know some of you like that, so I'm going to continue to do that. Here we have a Ronnie Lott 1982 Topps rookie. Again, same guy. My buddy in Dallas paid about, I think, $20 for this card. So let's take a look. We got PSA 8. So card is off-centered, as you could tell. I think I thought it would get a 9. And again, at $18 a card, it's like, why not take a shot? But as a PSA 8, it sells for about $40. I think the last comp on that card was $42. So paid 20, paid 18 to get it graded. Again, it's break even, but I just figured why not take a shot. I'm not sure what a 9 went for, but I'm sure I thought I could make some money on a PSA 9, but we didn't. Now let's get into some real vintage. This is a 1960 Topps Harmon Killebrew. Bought this off a friend of mine here in the Bay Area who has been a dealer for 30 years. Apparently, I just found that out 2 years ago, which is funny because we used to play basketball. And 2 years ago during the boom, I saw him at a card show and found out he's been doing this a long time. So I bought this Harmon Killebrew off him for my 1960 Topps set, which I'm putting together. I paid $50 for this card, and it got PSA 4. The corners are sharp. It's really badly off-centered. And actually, to be honest with you, I was a little worried that it might come back as trimmed. But it looks like it passed, and it's authentic. So it's a PSA 4, but it's only a $25 card as a PSA 4. So I lost there. Got this Bob Gibson off a friend of mine. Threw it in on a deal. I bought a Rafael Devers autographed Real One auto for $150, and he threw in the Bob Gibson for free. Again, this is going to my 1960 Topps set. I think he knew I was collecting this set. And let's see what we got. PSA 5. That's actually pretty good. I thought this card was in decent shape. And as a PSA 5, it's worth $100. So that was a nice throw-in. One of the better throw-ins I've had, I think, in any deal that I've ever done. I bought this Willie Mays. Again, 1960 Topps All-Star high numbered. This card is actually more rare than Willie Mays' base card from the 1960 Topps set. Got it off the same dealer friend of mine for $100 raw. And we got PSA 5. This card looks really nice. Raw, it looked like it was in good shape. Again, way off-centered. I'm sure that was a big factor in why it got its 5. But otherwise, it's a really nice 5. Worth $175 as a PSA 5. Now, here we go. I bought my dad Hank Aaron. Now, Hank Aaron is my dad's favorite player. And he's been, since he was a kid, he was a Hank Aaron fan. And he actually named, my middle name is Aaron after Hank Aaron. And so I decided to buy him a lot of Hank Aaron, not a lot, but many Hank Aaron cards for Christmas 22 years ago. So these cards are cards that my dad has had for the last 22 years. And I said, well, when PSA prices come down, I think you should get them graded. And that's what we did. So here we are, the Hank Aaron's from 22 years ago. There's just a few of them. This is a 1976 Topps Hank Aaron, his last year or his last card. Let's see what we got. PSA 7. And this was a nice card. I think I paid $10 for this. I thought it was, again, 22 years ago, I really had no clue what I was doing. But I wanted to try to get the best condition cards I could find. So I found a nice 76 Topps card for $10. And now it's worth $100 as a PSA 7. Here's a 1970 Topps card. I think I paid $25 for this card. And it got PSA 6. So, this was the best one I could find at the time. I went to a lot of local card shops. That's really how, I looked on eBay too, but I went to card shops because a lot of them had plenty of vintage back then. So anyway, it's worth $100 as a PSA 6. This is I believe this is a 1961 MVP Hank Aaron. Let's take a look. Yeah, and it got a PSA 5. And this card is worth $70 as a PSA 5. And this is a 1960 Topps. Now, this is not a card from my 60 Topps set. This is my dad's card. And let's see what we got. PSA 4. So you could see here the corners are, I don't know if it's going to kind of focus here, but you can see the corners are soft and it's also off-centered. So it's a PSA 4, but as a PSA 4, it's still worth $225. So not bad. I think I paid probably between $50 and $75 for that card raw. This is a 1959 Topps. Let's take a look. Oh, we got a PSA 6. Now this card was nice raw. And I'm not surprised by the grade. I think a PSA 6 is a pretty good grade. And I believe that it is a $400 card as a PSA 6. And I paid $75 for this 22 years ago. This is a 1958 Hank Aaron All-Star. PSA 4. So this was not one of my better picks in terms of condition, worth about $70. I probably paid between $20 and $25 for it raw. This is a 1958 Topps. So this is his regular card from 58 Topps. It got a 3.5. So far, this is the lowest grade. And even as a 3.5 though, this card last sold for $225. So even a card like that got a low grade, I paid less than $100 for it, and it's still a profitable card. I mean, I know it's 22 years later, but it was worth getting it graded as opposed to keeping it raw, and that's kind of what I told my dad. I was like, let's just go ahead and get these graded. Last one, 1957 Topps. Let's see what we got. PSA 5. This is another really nice looking 5. I mean, even the centering on it is nice. I was pretty proud of myself when I found this one on eBay. I probably paid close to, most likely I paid $75. I know I didn't pay more than $100 for any of these cards. And as a PSA 5, this card is worth $500. That was the last sale. So this was a pretty exciting order. I really wanted to see, how does PSA grade? What did I think these cards were going to get? And I feel like the grades that I got are roughly what I thought they would get based on looking at conditions of other graded cards online. And I would suggest that, you know, if you're going to get in the grading game, and especially for vintage, really look closely at PSA 5, you know, anywhere from 4 to 6, and see if you've got a card that you think falls in that range, because I think that's usually where you can buy raw and grade and still make a profit. It may not be a huge profit, but I think they're also pretty safe. I mean, you can send Hank Aaron's off to PSA, and 6 months later, they're probably going to still hold their value. So that's the nice thing about vintage. Anyway, thanks again for watching. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe. My subscriber count has not moved in the last, I would say, 12 months, but that's probably because I haven't been putting out any videos. So I really appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you on the next one.